Hey everyone, I'm sure you can tell by the tone of my voice I'm feeling a little bit under the weather, but I wanted to get a video out for you this week. Actually, being sick has kind of given me a really great idea for a video, and that's games that made a huge impact on me. Now, since I was always a bit of a loner and didn't really have that many friends or other people to play with growing up, I played a ton of games. Some of them were really good, and some of them were kind of terrible. But today I'm going to focus on games that are really good in my eyes. Now, these are the games that just kind of came up in mind when I first thought of like really incredible games, and I'm sure there are other games that I can think later on and be like, oh yeah, that was a really good game as well, but this is just kind of what I thought of right off the top of my head. The first game that I would say for sure 100% enjoyed was The Legend of Zelda Wind Waker for the GameCube. Coming from a majority of games where you're pretty much set on a path and don't have much room to play around with it versus Wind Waker, which at the time to me was a massive open world game where it felt endless where it could go. I spent so many days during the summer sitting on the floor, my neck craned up to my CRT television, and just experiencing the vast open world, and it just made me really fall in love with this game. I loved the sense of exploration, the music was incredible, and the level design was great, and all the puzzles, although sometimes difficult, were fair and forgiving. Honestly, one of my favorite games of all time. The next game I'd like to delve into would be Mega Man 64 for Nintendo 64, which, funny enough, Mega Man 64 is actually the first entry into the Mega Man Legends series of video games, and I'm not sure why they didn't bother to port the rest of the Mega Man games from PlayStation to N64, and I would like to try the rest of the Legends series out, but right now, I probably won't do it unless I work with my homebrew Wii and get it to play PlayStation 1 games, or if I buy a PS1 and burn the games or buy the games themselves. But Mega Man 64 is one of those games that's honestly just a vibe for me. The music was great and recognizable. I remember watching another YouTuber's video a long time ago and sitting and listening to the background music, and they were playing a track from Mega Man Legends, and they gave my comment a heart for that, for recognizing it. The story was also amazing too, because it wasn't like the stereotypical just bust monsters and get to the next level. There were also interesting characters and exploring ruins, which I really loved because, you know me, any game that lets me explore is a huge plus for me. I loved the whole idea of humanity kind of overcoming extinction, and it's still a very light and fun-hearted game. It's not really like that down the earth, or like not really that serious. Although I'm not sure what the rest of the Legend series is like, but maybe the rest of the Legend series is a little bit too dark, and that's why it never got ported over to N64, because I know Nintendo is really trying to keep a more family-friendly and kid-oriented approach to their games for a while. So maybe that's the reason why it never got ported over. The next game, or rather series of games I'd like to talk about, is the Yakuza series. Now, I was never really much for fighting games, but I had a friend show me this game when I was at his house, and I was just discovering City Pop, so being set in 1980s Japan was really interesting to me. There's always so much stuff to do in the Yakuza series, as well as a host of different side missions and people you could talk to, and the story is also very amazing too. It's got tons of twists, and it's only been the only game in recent history that I feel like the price of the game was actually kind of a lowball for the amount of content you get. I have to say, over all the Yakuza games that I've owned, I probably have 100 hours combined for all of them. And that's without including Like a Dragon, because I never bothered to buy Like a Dragon. It's very fast-paced for the most part, and the characters make you really honestly feel for them as well, which is kind of hard in some games, because a lot of times I'll play a game and I don't really feel anything for the character struggles. Honestly, it's something you definitely for sure should check out if you're in the market for trying something a little bit different and a little bit out of your comfort zone. Another game that was kind of the catalyst for this video was Sonic Frontiers, which has just come out maybe a couple weeks ago and is truly a masterpiece. Of course, it still has some of the classic Sonic game jank to it, with assets popping in and sometimes mechanics just not working, but honestly, other than that, I think it could be solved with patches in the future. Which is one thing I really like about this new age of gaming. I'm not thrilled about all my games being tied to an account that if I lose access to, then I lose all my games. But with games being always online, that kind of gives developers a chance to fix a game rather than leave it and fix the issue in a later print of the disc or in a Game of the Year release. I also really like the stark contrast compared to a lot of Sonic games, where you're running along a level and you have branching paths, but mainly you just try to stay on the path that gets you to the goal fastest. This game it rewards you for exploring. And they put you in this huge world with different obstacles and different little challenges and puzzles. And that was really nice, honestly. It was really interesting. And I played the game on easy, so that may have had an impact on the amount of challenge I had with different puzzles. But honestly, the puzzles are very easy. I don't think I had to even look up... I think I had to look up a YouTube video maybe about twice to see how to get through something, and then when I saw it, I was like, oh, okay, that makes a lot of sense. That was probably my next iteration of things I was going to try later on down the road. Challenges you have to do to get keys to unlock the Chaos Emeralds are also really easy too. I've never been really good at getting like S ranks or even A ranks in Sonic games for different levels, but once again, I also played in easy, so that might have affected the determination for getting an S rank. But honestly, I didn't have much of a problem going through and completing all 4 of the missions to get the keys and get 3 bonus keys after that as well. Honestly, I don't want to spoil it for you guys, but this by far has to be one of my favorite games that I've played this year. Now, the 2 games, I'm going to kind of lump these together since they're both for the same system, and they came out, I think, around the same year, too. I think they came out like a year with each other, and I also think they're in the storyline canonically as well, and that's Sonic Adventure 2 for the GameCube and Shadow the Hedgehog for the GameCube. Growing up, I had a copy of Sonic Adventure 2 for the GameCube, and it was a ton of fun. I mean, who could forget that iconic track in the level Cityscape? And I also love the Chow Garden, too. I, of course, always tried making the Unicorn Chows. I also loved playing as different characters in the game. Honestly felt like I was playing a Saturday morning cartoon, which as a kid I loved. Now, funny enough, I remember the Shadow the Hedgehog game coming out and seeing the television adverts for it, and seeing the game at Walmart, but my parents didn't want me to buy it for me because the employee at the counter said that Shadow swears in the game, and that Shadow was holding a gun on the cover. So it's a game that honestly I'd forgotten about until maybe a year or so ago, when I got my homebrewed Wii working, and I said I was going to play all the games that I had wanted for GameCube but just didn't get or didn't own, and Shadow the Hedgehog was one of them. Honestly, it was a really fun game, and I'm sure it wasn't the first game I've had in a long time with branching paths and story outcomes depending on your actions. For my first playthrough, I went to a neutral ending route right until I got to the last couple of levels, where I sided with the good guys and beat the evil space demon thing, and then I watched all the endings on YouTube. I mean, once again, both games do suffer from that Sonic game jank that's commonplace in any 3D Sonic game nowadays, but even that itself has some charm to it, I think. Well, that about wraps up my thoughts for this week. I hope you guys enjoyed this one, and I'm really hoping for next week's video I'll be feeling a lot better. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, and stay tuned for the next video. See ya!